Welcome to day 5 of our financial detox challenge. Today we're looking at financial phobia because yesterday we looked at fear and finances, and in particular, fear of missing out or FOMO. And we learned that because of FOMO, a lot of people end up having unwanted expenses and they borrow unnecessarily as a result. And at the end of the month, you realize that you won't be able to pay back. Then there's a panic. And that is what we talk about when we talk about financial phobia, because it is the fear of dealing with our financial issues. We don't want to sit down and do a budget where we are able to see how much we are spending versus how much we're earning. We don't want to check our bank statements because we don't want to face reality. We don't pay bills on time or don't pay bills at all. We choose which bills will be paid and which bills will not be paid. We don't even look at savings or investments vehicles because we feel that we are not in a position to save any money at the end of the day. Also, we don't check our email. We don't want to open emails that has bills on them because we don't want to face the bill, or we ignore SMSs and we ignore calls from private numbers or 087 numbers. It even goes to an extent for some people that they say they feel paralyzed or they have panic attacks as far as their finances are concerned, because this phobia has a tendency of making people feel that they've lost complete control of their finances and they don't know how they're going to regain it. But however, when we avoid or ignore these calls and emails and all that, we are just making it more difficult for ourselves, because they say ignorance is costly. It will cost us more money tomorrow when we pay for those charges that will accumulate when we ignore our bills. Anyway, so what are the risks associated with financial phobia? We tend not to know how much we are spending. We can't tell how much we're spending versus how much we're earning because we don't have a budget, and we perpetuate the bad money habits that I mentioned on day 1, that we spend more than we earn and we end up buying things that we can't afford. That cycle will never be broken if we don't stand and break it consciously ourselves. And for those with overdraft facilities, you may end up using an overdraft facility thinking it's your money if you don't check your bank statement. And also we can miss payments because if we don't sit and write down who we owe and how much we owe and what needs to be paid, we may overlook some of the debt in our life because we don't want to acknowledge the amount of money that we owe. And we also need to know that when we avoid looking at our finances or dealing with our finances, it affects our credit score. So we need to make sure that our credit score is right at the credit bureau by having a credit report printed or once a year, where we are able to see how we stand as far as credit rating is concerned at the credit bureau. And also saving and investing and managing our finances becomes a challenge if we don't deal with our finances properly. And lastly, there can be bank charges and there may be errors that you won't be able to pick up if you don't check your bank statement. So it helps us as well to save some money, which we can use to pay some of the debt back or save if we need to save. And we also know that we have what we call NAEDO, non-authorized debit orders, where companies are debiting people's account without their consent. So if we don't check our bank accounts or our bank statements, there may be some money that we're losing due to that. And how do we deal with this financial phobia? Lastly, is that first thing is to acknowledge that we have a phobia. That way you are able to overcome the phobia and you are able to come up with a plan. And we need to check our bank statements regularly because we can save a lot of money because of checking our bank statements. And then we also need to pay our bills on time every time, because it helps us as well with the charges. If we don't pay on time, we end up paying more because of that, of not paying on time. And we have to create a budget. Create a budget. We'll talk about a budget in the next sessions because it helps us to track our finances. We see where our money is going and we see whether it's a need or a want that we're spending our monies on. And we also need to begin to come out of debt when we have a plan, because the first step of getting out of debt is to stop wrecking any debt. So we are at the right position now. There's no one who's doing anything. There's no partying. There's no need to buy anything new. It's time to look at our lives and see if this phobia is driving our lives and what we can do about it now when we have the time. And lastly, we need to set long-term goals, because when we have goals, we are able to be disciplined and to focus on what we need to do, and it helps us to come out of debt as well. So that is what I have for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Until tomorrow, I hope you are now seeing a clear picture as far as your finances are concerned. We are getting there. Thank you. Bye-bye. Until tomorrow.